a political science double major, and I am interning with the NC Equal Access to Justice Commission. It's been fully virtual, and no, it's been working from home and really enjoying it. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, or just really basic to start off?
Yeah, let's go basic to start off.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sierra, you're to my top right, so we'll go to you.
Hey everybody, I'm also happy to be here. I'm Sierra Watson, and I'm a graduate student here at ASU, and I'm pursuing a master's in public administration. I hope to pursue a professional career in the public sector through either a municipality or nonprofit organization after graduation. I had other internships opportunities prior to COVID, but all were canceled in early April when the outbreak started to pick up here in the United States. I'm currently interning with the town of North Wilkesboro under the town manager and their tourism director, and I'm helping the town research and promote different local businesses in hopes of kind of keeping our community and our relationships strong and connected during the pandemic.
Great. Thank you, Sierra. I'm going to come back to you, but Dom, let's have you introduce yourself.
Hello. Happy to be here as well. My name is Dominic Fetters, and I am a master's student in engineering physics here at App State. My internship is with Inmar Intelligence. It's a company in Winston-Salem. And so far, I've been a core engineer. It wasn't the original plan, but because of the remote circumstances due to COVID, we had to switch that. And I've been working on mobile application development for mobile apps that work with medical hardware that's used in hospitals.
So y'all represent sort of a broad spectrum. Two people are in the government sector, but also the private sector here. And Sierra, you mentioned that you had some internships lined up, some opportunities, and in April, they all started disappearing. So I was wondering if each of you could talk a little bit about how you actually, what was the process you used to find this internship? I know, Michael, you and I met, you had a list of like 5 million things and a lot of research. And if you could talk a little bit about the power of your own research, and then maybe also talk a little bit about the power of luck, and how you know, because I mean, things don't just happen to people if they're not prepared, or so I believe. But you all each, from what I know, had some fortuitous things happen for you. So if you could talk a little bit about what your process was looking for an internship, how you found what you found, and a little bit about that.
Do we just want to go in the same order that we went in last time? Sounds good. Oh yeah, so yeah, definitely Dr. McCracken knows. I had like a list of 40 places that I had applied to. I would say wrapped up like end of beginning of March, and yeah, right before COVID hit. And I mostly applied to governmental affairs, like branches of companies in DC and Raleigh, lobbying firms, and like think tanks in DC, and was thinking of maybe go back. I interned in Senator Burr's office last summer, so I was like, like just still doing something government related, but not necessarily like with an R or D next to it and anything like that. And yeah, that, and like I even had like one solidified offer from someone like doing insurance, representing all insurance people in North Carolina. And by about 3 or 4 weeks later, everything was either red, or I color coded everything on my like sheet. It was either red, or I felt like a blue freeze color, ice color, because it's like they were like, oh, we don't know what we're gonna do. And I actually had someone like 2 weeks ago like just reject me for an internship, which was very, like it was literally like right at the end of June. It was like, sorry, we can't offer you a position. I was like, I think I'm okay, but and then definitely the power of luck helped the previous power research, and we just continued like looking. And to be completely honest, I mean, it's where I work is a commission of the Supreme Court, and I wasn't really sure exactly what it did, but Dr. McCracken, we kept looking for stuff in North Carolina and Raleigh, and something opened up, took advantage. And then if 3 months ago, I would have never pictured ending up here, but got lucky. But you know, I guess a little bit, if you prepare yourself and work a little hard, you might get a little bit luckier than and if you don't do it. So, but I guess we'll never know.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Sierra?
Definitely a really similar situation. I applied to, oh my goodness, like 30 plus internships up north, which is, the kind of the hot spot for it. And so about late March, early April, I started getting emails back about how opportunities have been canceled because of COVID, which was really disappointing. I applied for a lot of different nonprofit organization, kind of program coordinators and marketing, just with my undergraduate degree background. And then by a little bit of luck, then Dr. McCracken, you forwarded something. I think my program director, she reached out to me and she was like, I think you need to apply to some of these. They look like they would benefit you. And I didn't think that I would end up in local government as well, but I've really enjoyed my experience working with local government, and it's definitely a path that has opened for me. It's an experience that I thought I wasn't going to have, so a little bit of luck there. I was hoping that all that hard work and the beginning of the year would pay off, all those multiple hours of filling out applications. And it sure did. I didn't think that I was going to end up around the area, and this path is definitely something that I'm probably going to pursue afterwards.
Thank you. And Dom, you had mentioned earlier what you'd planned to do was in person, and that's not what you're doing.
Yeah. So my process of looking for an internship started similar to Michael and Sierra, where I applied to dozens and dozens of internships. I eventually lost count. I was getting all kinds of rejection responses. Like I counted 20 some formal rejections that I got, but then there were probably 20 more that I just never heard back from. I finally was about to give up and just go talk to my advisor about doing a faculty directed research project to count as my internship for my degree. And then that same day, actually, I got an email from Inmar telling me that they wanted me to bring me on as an intern. So that was amazing. And yeah, like you said, my original plan was I was going to be in Winston-Salem, and I was going to be working in their robotics laboratory that they have, which is amazing, by the way. I got a virtual tour of the company building as well as the robotics lab, and it would have been amazing to be there. But remote working has its own set of pros, it's its own set of benefits. So that's nice. And yeah, that was pretty much how my process went. And I started June 1st. So.
Right. Well, I think Sierra mentioned before we actually went live that she's actually been on site a couple of times, but she has to wear a mask the whole time she's there. So when she's at home, she doesn't have to wear a mask. So that's perhaps one benefit. Talk to us, and we'll start with you again, Michael, on how you've managed, how you've sort of structured your, how you moved from teleclass, doing remote learning, kind of what you've learned about structuring your time, your workspace, managing how you do work in a virtual environment, and maybe share with us what's been the most challenging aspect for you.
For sure. I think definitely one of the most challenging things to start was finding a good workspace. I know that sounds very basic, but my little brother was doing Zoom middle school, which is interesting. I have a brother at Chapel Hill who's doing Zoom, and my dad's been working from home as well. And then mom and everyone's just been, we're all like trying to just like carve our little space. It's like, no, this is like back out. This is me, and not trying to just do it in my room and everything like that. But I think one of the reasons I kind of, at least doing with like student government stuff at the end of last semester, I'm very familiar with Zoom and Zoom meetings and everything like that, and already scheduling those and was something I was used to. So that really helped. But definitely, at least throughout the day, I don't know how everyone else's schedule looks like, but it's kind of how I wanted it to be. Is like, I was kind of like, am I literally gonna be on Zoom from 9 to 5 every single day? That was like my first like interview, ask us a questions. And I said, that's not the case, is that there's a balance between like, well, I probably have like 3 meetings maybe a day that are like with staff or on some project. And then like the rest is time to work, and which is great. But it definitely, at least for me, being intentional, I like, hey, it's like, you know, if it's 3 or 4, at least I know for me is like I take a little break and I come back at it a little later, because I can't do the sit at the coffee table for 6 or 7 hours. That's just not me. But I think definitely that's the challenge, is like, yeah, working at home I think is definitely more distracting, and trying to be as most self-disciplined and kind of like, okay, here are the things I'm going to get done today, and if I'm not, I need to hold myself accountable.
Thank you. Sierra?
I would say that I've had to definitely rethink how I work and how I prioritize my work. For me personally, I think it's definitely strengthened my adaptability skills. I've enjoyed the healthy balance of working remotely and how easy it is to accomplish tasks at my own pace, but there definitely is that struggle to remain connected. And then working remotely has definitely enabled me to be more flexible with my time, kind of like Michael, you know, take a break here and there, come back to it, go on a walk, have lunch, and then just kind of work in increments. It's definitely allowed me to put my best work in a comfortable environment, I would say. And just with summer internships being so short, it kind of takes away that added pressure of learning how to transition from a student to a professional so quickly.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Dom, what else would you add?
Yeah, so my biggest challenge has been similar to Michael's, and I'm here in Boone still, so I'm still in my apartment, which is a studio. So right now, I do all my work in the same exact place that I have all my meals. And if I'm ever on the computer for anything other than work, I'm right here. Or if I'm like playing a video game, I'm right here, except I'm scooted, like turned the other direction and scooted back like 2 feet that way. So it's just like I'm always in the same spot. So sometimes it gets kind of annoying. So like Sierra said, I do enjoy the benefit of my schedule. As long as I'm making my meetings and being there, then I don't have to work 9 to 5. I just have to get 40 hours in a week. And that's my only, it can be at my own pace. So I, you know, can take myself out for a walk, or just go lay in the bed for a minute if I'm just overwhelmed, which happens quite a bit. And so, yeah, that's been my biggest challenge by far. Is just work. There's no work-life separation at all, because I'm always right here, like 12 hours a day. Kind of sucks.
Yeah, I think that is the hard thing. Is I know for me personally, I work and personal, I mean, it's all just part of my life, and it all kind of merges together anyway. But you know, I mean, we're all struggling with trying to find that balance. Sometimes I feel like I have 3 different places I want to be in the house. And then each time I go, I've got to get back on the internet signal and make sure I've got the connectivity that I need to get done what I want to get done. One of the things that y'all mentioned to me when we were talking about questions is sort of how to form those relationships with your supervisors and the people that you're working with. When you don't physically run into them going into the building in the morning, or you're not going in and out of their office. You started work with a supervisor whom I'm pretty sure for the most part has not had a lot of experience supervising people virtually, especially people they've never met. So can y'all talk a little bit, and we'll start with you again, Michael, about what you've done, how you've had to communicate or maybe be more intentional, things you might have done differently in a virtual environment to establish that relationship with your supervisor, to get feedback, understand what the expectations are.
I think that has definitely been a challenge. I think that there was definitely like one project that me and one of my supervisors were working on. It would have been leaps and bounds is like easier if I could have just like knocked on her office door and like, hey, like check in like every like hour or something like here. But like trying to like present it on Zoom and things like that. But I'm definitely like asking a lot more questions, and just I think at least at our internship we've kind of scheduled like coffee breaks with for each like intern to connect with each staffer in a more personal way, other than like off like tangent conversations that people have, which I think I feel a lot more connected to like the people I work. I'm gonna miss the people I work with, which I didn't really think was gonna happen. And 2 months, especially like over Zoom, which I think is kind of a testament to that there's still like a culture and lots of communication, which I think is a really good idea, and I'm proud that at least where I work, it's been able to happen.
I would say that I'm pretty fortunate that I'm getting to go into the office some and attend some town meetings and getting to see some faces in person. But I think you really do have to be more intentional. We've had to, schedule meetings so that way we can all see our faces. I think that's a priority, is just to learn to be a little bit more flexible and adaptable with everyone's schedule, because it's kind of all over the place. So cutting out that time to schedule meetings just so you can see everyone's face and kind of keep up with tasks and prioritize that at the beginning of the week, at the end of the week, once a day. But like I said, I'm pretty fortunate that I can go into the office here and there, but we are trying to, we're being pretty flexible, where some of the office will come in for a week and then they'll be out of the office for a week. So then I would be completely remote that week. So it's kind of interchangeable, but I think that you really just have to prioritize scheduling meetings, and maybe even shooting an email to somebody that, even if it's not necessarily work related, to try and build that network with people. But it still has been a challenge, because you feel like you're missing that connectedness, that sort of feeling of connecting with somebody in person. Those interpersonal skills are, kind of lack a little bit, but I feel like your communication skills are changing slightly. You're learning how to communicate online. I really didn't know how to work Zoom or like Cisco WebEx before all of this. So you're learning different skills that you wouldn't necessarily learn otherwise by doing this remotely.
That's very true. Today is my first Facebook Live, and so far we're still on the screen on Facebook, so I guess it's working. So, Dom, what about you?
Yeah, so this has actually been, I think I may have said the fact that I sit in the same spot all day, every day was my biggest challenge, but it's my second biggest challenge to connecting to my mentors and teammates and managers. I'm not sure. I think it's probably just who I happen to be working with. They aren't necessarily the most outgoing as far as reaching out to me, just check up on me, or like talk to me if I don't reach out to them first. So building those connections to people on my team and my managers and asking for help is something that I've really had to get out of my comfort zone and like force to go ahead and set a Google meeting or a Zoom meeting based on everybody's calendar on Google with a couple of my team members, because I need help with getting some code to work or something like that. And they can accept or decline, but just having to go ahead and put the invite out there just to try to get them to, meet with me. I definitely feel like they're not getting the actual me that they would be getting if I were in Winston-Salem. I think that it's definitely a lot more effort to try to build those connections in a remote setting than it would be otherwise. And my team, the team of engineers I work on is about 7 engineers total, and 3 of them are actually full-time remote employees already. So 2 of them live in Pennsylvania, 1 of them lives in Texas, but their job is slightly different than the one I'm doing. And they also have been doing it for decades. They're not, the clueless intern. So it's been a challenge, but the main thing I've taken away from this experience is early and often to try to reach out, set those meetings. And it doesn't even necessarily have to even be about work or a task you're doing. It can just to kind of talk to them about how the team operates and their tendencies and things like that.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. I think, you know, there's some important pieces there about how, again, you structure and you recognize, and each work setting is going to be very different. I mean, you're working in a place where it sounds like a lot of people, Dom, are used to sort of working independently. I mean, they might work together, but they're on their own projects. And I think when you and I talked earlier, because of COVID and the nature of your business, it's been very demanding. And it's not like people have lots and lots of extra time to be able to mentor. So you really have to kind of put yourself out there in a way that may be a bit of a challenge for you, may not be as comfortable. Sierra, I wanted to come back to you because you're actually graduating here in about a month or less, and you're going to be looking for jobs in this world, knowing that you might very well start a new job sometime this fall in a virtual setting. What any tips, I guess, or thoughts for people who might be listening to this or seeing this who are going to be in a similar situation now that you've done a little bit of it? How is that going to inform you as you think about transitioning to a full-time job that may start out, hopefully won't be this way forever, but may start out this way?
I would say you have to write out a to-do list every single day to kind of keep yourself on track. I'm someone who likes to like cross off things physically. So that's kept me on track for the most work, and trying to prioritize that. Stay connected with your network for sure. Just like Dom and Michael said, it's really important to schedule those meetings with people and stay connected, just even if it's saying, hello, how was your 4th of July weekend? And speaking that way, just a little bit more personal. I would say you have to be a self-motivator more than anything. And that's definitely a skill that I've had to learn. Even this last semester, I think we can all speak for that, since we kind of got to learn a little bit for that, little bit the lead up of how you have to be more adaptable, more flexible, and have to be a self-motivator. And that's the number one thing. When you work at home, you have to be self-motivated because there's just so many distractions, even if that's at first too, when you couldn't even go out to a whole new environment. We couldn't go to the library, you can't go to a coffee shop. So you have to really prioritize where you're working and try as much as possible, even if you're in a 450 square foot apartment like me, to set a space for work and set a space for your free time afterwards, and take those breaks in increments. Work for an hour, take 15 minutes to go on a walk, go outside, work for another hour, take 30 minutes off to eat. So setting those deadlines for yourself is number one. Being a self-motivator, that's all I can say. That's what I've learned. That's been a challenge, and it's also been a benefit to me because I have definitely, I feel like I'm becoming a lot more determined, a lot more motivated by myself. I don't need anybody to have to push me to work, sort of thing. But giving myself those on deadlines, because everybody's kind of flexible and they're all kind of trying to learn at their own pace as well.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. And it's hard to keep going, especially when you think maybe this isn't the way I want to work forever. But you know, it may be a lot longer doing this than maybe was ideal. Before we wrap up, I want to just see what other tips y'all might have for folks who hear this, tips for success, and then we'll see if there are any questions. I think we have at least one person with us on the Zoom, and if there are any questions, people can put those in comments or the chat. So Michael, one golden nugget for success.
I can at least speak to kind of like, and this isn't going to be true for engineering or physics or anything, but at least I think for like political internships is definitely, at least everyone at our internships been like, hey, like if you want to connect with this person, like I can set you up. And like, and definitely if there is one silver lining, I can at least speak of this on like a student government perspective too, is that people are a lot more willing to meet over the summer and do things. Because usually if someone wanted to meet, like, hey, let's grab coffee, I mean, the burden is like, I gotta go. The person's probably gonna have to pay for it. You're gonna have to drive, and that, I mean, depending on how nice the person is, that could be a major inconvenience or not. But now it's like most people are willing to give you 30 minutes of time on the phone. A lot of people have welcomed, like, this is like a change from my usual do the same thing every day, and I think that's, I mean, it's like I get to like talk to like a person that's like flesh and blood and not just something I do every day. So I think definitely taking advantage of like and making the most of the networking aspect, at least given what your internship is. I mean, not the same for everything. That would be my one little tidbit.
Great, I like that. And I think part of it is we're all very much in desire for some contact with people. So I think that's a really good thing to share. Sierra, another golden nugget you would have?
Be flexible with your schedule, willing to jump on a call or Zoom whenever possible. Introduce yourself to everyone that you're in contact with. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them what your goals are for your internship or your job, and utilize professional online networks. Like LinkedIn is big for me. So I'll make a connection with somebody and then immediately I'll go and add them on LinkedIn and be like, hey, my name's Sierra. I just met with you today. Take some notes maybe from your meeting. So you can personalize that, and that way you can keep those connections going afterwards.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned LinkedIn, and just, it feels like the barriers are a little lower to connect with people because everybody's in this virtual environment. And I've been on some webinars and professional development trainings with really amazing people that if I had gone to a physical conference and heard them, I would have been one of 500 people. And I probably wouldn't have waited in line to go introduce myself. But now I can just send them a message or follow up with them on LinkedIn in a way that I probably wouldn't normally do in person. So I think that LinkedIn is going to become, I think, even more valuable as we go forward. And Dom, any parting words you would have for folks?
Yeah. To add to what I said about establishing those connections early, I would say also establish and define expectations early on as well. Not just with yourself, but with your team members and managers, because I didn't necessarily do that. I ended up working under a manager who I didn't even know about until like my third day. It wasn't the person who I'd been told I was going to be working with or who I hadn't interviewed with or anything. So I didn't necessarily know what they were expecting from me as far as productivity goes, because it was my other manager who I had interviewed with and told him my limitations and what I had experience with, what like programming languages, what database management systems, whatever I had worked with, and which ones I hadn't. And then I got to working with this team, and I was given this pretty challenging task that I didn't even really know where to start because everything was all new all at once. And not only that, that combined with the fact that everybody on my team was just as busy as I was. They weren't necessarily there for me to shadow them. I also didn't reach out soon enough. So I ended up just being extremely overwhelmed and stressed all the time, thinking that I wasn't doing stuff quick enough or that I was just failing or whatever. And it wasn't very fun mentally. Then it turned out that they weren't really expecting me to actually finish what they had given me. They were just expecting me to try to learn. And it's more about how I progressed as an engineer than about the fact that I did some work. But I didn't know that till a few weeks in. So I spent those few first weeks just so stressed because I didn't know what that expectation was. Or I thought there were more expectations than there were. So that's what I would say is when you establish those connections, also make sure the expectations for what you're doing are well defined, so there's no confusion there.
You know, that's a really important thing to share. And I would say, you know, even as someone who's been in a professional career for 25 years, this time has, I think, I mean, it's personally been hard for me. There are days where I'm like, I'm not doing enough. I need to be more productive. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do more than like 5 hours of Zoom. My brain is fried. And you all are already learning how to manage your time to make space for yourself in this environment. And I think that it is going to really set you up for success long term in whatever environment you're in. You obviously each have a lot of resiliency and adaptability. And the other thing I think that this also has kind of forced us to do this time is to really evaluate what's really, really important to us. And I think I'm hearing a lot of that from y'all as well. So I don't know. I don't think we have any questions at this point. I've had some communications with folks, but I think we're good with that. Before we wrap up, I do want to make sure that students who are listening, and sometimes their parents who are listening, to tell their students what might be a good choice for them to do, is that we actually have a lot of internships for the fall that are listed in Handshake. Last week, I think about 15 or 20 came through for National Public Radio. Some really cool things like sound design, working on StoryCorps, working on social media for National Public Radio. So one thing that's pretty amazing right now, I actually was working with a student a couple of weeks ago who was applying for an online virtual internship this fall with the Smithsonian, with the American History Museum. So right now, going to DC usually costs a fortune, and you got to figure out your classes and can you get credit, and how are you going to come up with like $1,200 a month to rent a sofa from a friend? Well, right now you can rent that sofa for a lot less than $1,200 in the beauty of your own apartment, and still get some pretty amazing experiences. The program where Sierra found her internship is, there's a link on internships.appstate.edu of a lot of opportunities that are still available throughout from now on, and probably from fall until spring, with local governments and nonprofits. It's part of a public service corps that Governor Cooper's office has sort of jump-started. And we already have a date, and I right now cannot remember it, but we do have our fall internship and job fair scheduled. We've heard back from about 160 employers who all say they plan on recruiting on campus however they can, because they really, really value the quality and the work ethic of our students from Appalachian. So if there's no other comment that anyone wants to make, I want to thank Michael and Sierra and Dom for being with me this afternoon, for launching into this experiment with me. And I don't think we messed up too badly. I think we managed to stay online on Facebook as well as on Zoom. So I'm excited. I'm going to do it again. You've given me confidence. Sierra, you mentioned learning all these new technologies. And I just really appreciate y'all's time. And I'll follow up with y'all offline. And have a great afternoon. And congratulations on graduation, Sierra. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Congrats.
Bye.
See y'all.
Thanks.